call is now being recorded.
Okay, I think we're recording now.
Yes,
and
we are.
You're on, right, mate? Okay, cool.
Yep.
So thank you very much. Brett Fidoe is my guest today. And Brett, thanks a lot for joining us. You know, you're all the way over in the UK, and I'm, of course, based here in the States. So it's a pleasure, mate. Thanks for making time for me.
No problem, mate. Thanks for having me on.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And I just wanted to share a little bit of background information, both with you and the listeners, in case it's their first time listening to the show. You know, I myself am merely a fanatical boxing fan. I kind of recoil at the fact when people suggest maybe I'm a journalist or media or something like that. I just simply pride myself in watching as much boxing as humanly possible. And I often joke that I don't know if I should be ashamed of that fact or if I should be proud of it, but I watch everything in the world, from the club shows in the United States to Asia, Africa, Europe, of course, the United Kingdom. And that's 100% where I focus my attention. So it's a real privilege and honor to be able to visit someone like Brett, who's had an amazing career already up to this point. So, well, I've seen you make some rounds lately, Brett, on the interview circuit because of the success you've had, regardless of that recent success, as well as the success you had in the string here of about 4 or 5 years ago. I you know, your life and career fits perfectly into discussions that we have weekly on our podcast and that I tweet about all the time on my Twitter timeline. So thanks a lot, friend. I appreciate it again. I just wanted to share like 2 or 3 bullets, Brad, about your background for people that may be unfamiliar, so we can move into some more, questions. So I don't ask you stuff that everybody else has been asking you about, when did you start boxing and how old are you and all that kind of stuff. So if that's okay with you, is that cool?
Yeah, that's perfectly fine, mate.
Okay, so I'll just give a couple of brief bullets here to provide some scope of our conversation. So Brett is a 30-year-old bantamweight, super bantamweight from Evesham, Worcestershire, right? Did I get that?
Yeah, you got that right.
Okay, all right. And Brett has a ring record of 15 wins, 65 defeats, and 5 losses. In the 65 defeats, amazingly, Brett has only been stopped twice, which is absolutely unheard of in the sport of boxing, of course. And while in the United States, we have had a few legendary journeymen over the years, and I'm going to use that term journeyman now, but it's something I want to ask Brett about here momentarily. The role of the journeyman, and from what I've observed over the last 15 years or so, it's just far more prevalent in the United Kingdom, and it's more of an essential component of the sport in the UK than I think it gets credit for in the United States. So Brett first started boxing around the age of 13, had about 18 amateur bouts or so, and then you turned pro at the age of 21 in 2012. And here's another amazing statistic. Your 15 victories have come against 5 debutantes, but then the other 10 opponents had a combined record up through and including your latest bout of 52 wins, 2 defeats, and 1 tie. That's off the charts, mate.
You can't write that. You can't write that script, mate.
No, you can't even, as we'd say here, you can't make that shit up. That's that's amazing. We're not sending you in there against guys that are just going to roll over for you. That's for sure.
No, it's all prospects, mate. All prospects.
Young lions. And before we got on the call, I was joking with Brad about how old I feel in technology as him and I were trying to get connected. And you're 30, and they're throwing you in there with guys 20 years old, 21 years old. That it's amazing, huh?
And now with the young lions.
That's right, man. Well, we're going to get started, but Brett, I've got to be straight up front with you on a disclaimer right as we start. So a couple of podcasts ago that I did, and we didn't have a guest on. So we were just looking at the club activity around the world and then previewing some club stuff. And it was around your fight with John Patrick Harker, which was 2 fights ago. And Harker was a debutante, and you went in there, and he had a decent amateur background. And you went in there and took a 4-round decision against Harker, 39-37 by referee scoring, if I'm not mistaken. And on the podcast, I said, when an opponent like Brett has 65 losses, I don't know if the threat is maybe the appropriate nickname for you because you've got 65 losses. And then you beat Harker, and then you beat McCullough. And I came on my last podcast and said, boy, don't I feel like an asshole because I think I completely missed the boat on the level that you're able to fight at. So joke's on me, mate. I owe you an apology right off the rip.
Yeah, that's not a problem, mate. That's not a problem. A lot of people say that about me, but it's just most people. Obviously, you're a boxing journalist, but some of the public don't understand the boxing and don't understand the kind of level I've been in with. But yeah, for you to say that, you deserve it.
I do deserve it. I know better. So shit, man. All right. Well, we'll get back to your recent success here in just a minute, but I wanted to first start with a little more color around your background that I think maybe you could only provide. We do have, like I said, I've got listeners all over the world, and quite a few in the UK, but quite a few in the States too. And I wanted to ask you, I read a note that said growing up you were part of a traveler community. For those who aren't familiar, how would you describe that?
Obviously, a traveling community is how can I put it? We do our culture. We live different to somebody living in houses. Obviously, meaning by that we live in caravans. We just live totally different to somebody living in a house. And a lot of people obviously give us the names. You probably heard it before, like called gypsies. That's what they obviously call us, gypsies, rather than being travelers. But it's all good.
Yeah, and I think even the cursory boxing fan might have heard that being spoken of course, of Tyson Fury, who might be the most famous that they've heard of in that regard. And would you still consider yourself a traveler now? Is that how you and your family live now?
Obviously we moved into a house now, but obviously we still consider ourselves travelers. We still live the culture.
Gotcha.
So that'll never change.
Gotcha. And you're a family man, correct?
Yeah, I got obviously a wife and 4 kids. So yeah, I'm a family man, mate.
4, nice. I've got 3. Once we get past 2, it all gets kind of hairy after that, doesn't it?
It does, mate. It does. Said to my wife we should have stopped at 2, but unfortunately we had another 2.
That's what I tell my 3rd child. Like, it seemed like a good idea at the time, but now I don't know what we were thinking. I don't know if she appreciates that. Probably not. So you mentioned this just briefly before we get on, but it's interesting to explore. So you do have a job outside of boxing, you said. So tell us about that.
Yes. I'm actually I'm a tree surgeon out of boxing. So it's a very hands-on job. Get a lot of my strength from that as well, up and down the trees, carrying logs. It's hard work when you're doing that 9 till 5, and then obviously going to the gym afterwards. But that's what I live for, mate. I love it. Like, I love training, love supporting my family.
I actually just had a tree surgeon in my house recently, and he said that the people going into the line of work that he's in are few and far between these days because everyone wants to do technologically advanced things, but that there's just a huge demand, and the job pays well, and it's hard work, but good way to make a living. And so, yeah, I've got a lot of respect for that, especially when I saw what he was doing that I certainly as hell couldn't do at my house. That's for sure.
Of course, it's quite a skilled job. You can't just go up there and obviously cut a tree because you'll be causing a lot of damage. It's quite skilled.
You don't go up there and start hacking away. Right, mate? So what does a normal day look like for you then?
Well, I get up, obviously I do the school one, and then from there straight to work. That's it, just straight to work, do what I gotta do, possibly set off from work to get back home for about 4:30, 4:45. Soon as I touch home, say hello to the kids and the wife, gym bag and straight to the gym. So, and obviously I'm in the gym for a couple of hours. So it's very rare I see the kids more than an hour, 2 hours a night really. Because time I get back, they're in bed ready for school next day. So I'm just trying to build a future for them for when I obviously retire from boxing.
Damn, that's amazing, bro. Do you have over your career, has it always been that way? Earlier in your career, did you ever train in the morning, or has it always been evening for you?
I have trained in the morning, of course, yes. Because obviously I'm self-employed, I work for myself. I can move my days to when and where I want to train, you know what I mean? So
Yep.
I have trained in the morning. Sometimes I've got up at like 5 o'clock, go for a jog, then go to work, and then come back and go to the gym. But I do prefer to train on a night time. I just feel a lot better for me.
Gotcha. And I thought I read earlier, and maybe an article that's a little outdated, that for a number of years you trained yourself, but you're with Spencer McCracken now. Is that right?
Yes, I'm with Spencer now. Yeah, but so I wouldn't say when I first turned pro, I think I was about 21. I had a very good trainer. I don't know if you probably would know him. Have you ever heard of Scott Lawton?
No, I haven't.
He's been retired for quite a while now. But when he was boxing, he fought Amir Khan and everybody. He fought some good kids. He was English champion and so on. So I was actually training at his gym, and he was obviously training me and managing me at the time. But obviously I used to live in a different county to where I am now. But I moved out of that county. So then obviously I was talking to Scott. We had a chat, and he actually found me another manager because I said I wanted one a bit closer by, and he found me John Pegg. So when I moved out of that county into this county I am now, obviously, John Pegg become me manager, and then I started to train at John Pegg's gym. But because it was quite a distance from where I live, it was like an hour and a half, nearly 2 hours drive. I started to train myself, yeah. So I trained myself for quite a few fights, to be honest. And then I just thought, well, I need to. I sort of lost a bit of love in boxing because I was training myself. I had nobody. I wasn't really pushing myself.
Yeah.
So I thought to myself, I need to. I either need to retire because I never had the love for it, I never had the grit and determination, or I thought, well, I find another trainer. So that's when obviously I started to train with Spencer McCracken, and he's quite a good trainer. He's got the the fire back in my belly now. So I love training with him, and we've been doing since I've been with him. And we've had I've been with him for a few months, but in them few months, because of COVID, we haven't had many fights. So I've only had 3 fights with him, and we've won 2 of them. So hopefully he's going to do some wonders for me.
Well, and that's true in anything in life, right? From being a tree specialist to a boxer to a husband. I mean, if you don't have someone you trust in your life to speak truth to you, sometimes
Exactly.
we just get kind of stagnant, don't we? I mean,
Well, that's it.
that's
All we need in life is the truth. Don't matter how hard it is, just need the truth, mate. That's all you need.
yep. I couldn't agree more. Well, I'm going to ask you a couple of questions. They're a little uncomfortable for me to ask, but hopefully I've established that I'm not. I don't mean them in any disparaging way. That the boxing of the small hall and journeyman type shows are all I watch, and certainly I'm not a self masochist to the fact that I just watch it because I hate it. I love it. So how do you respond? I mean, do you consider yourself a journeyman?
Well, it depends what people define journeyman. Really, it's obviously I could say I do consider myself as a journeyman, but I also consider myself as a road warrior because
Yep.
it's if I want to have a go, then I'm in a different mentality, a different mind frame, and obviously I can pull off these big upsets.
Yep.
But if I go there and think to myself, well, I can't be asked tonight, then people obviously we're not just going through the motions in the ring. Then obviously people think, oh, he's a journeyman and so on, but that's what journeyman does. But to be a journeyman, you need to be a special breed.
Yep.
A boxer. You know what I mean? You need to be a special breed of boxer to be a journeyman. Not many lads can do it.
I mean, it's overused cliche, right? But that it's truly the fact of anywhere, anyone, anytime. Is it not? Like you'll fight anyone, anywhere, at any time. It's overused, but it's the truth.
That's it, mate. Out of my 85 fights, I've never refused a fight. Don't matter if it's been 3 weeks notice, 2 weeks, or even 24 hours notice. I've took many fights on 24 hours. I've never refused a fight. That's what Spencer says sometimes. My downfall is that I'll fight anyone, anywhere, anytime. He says, I wish you could just be a bit more patient and say no to some of these fights, and then we could probably get you a bit further on in your career. But I'm just a fighting man, mate. I just love it.
That's great. So kind of a similar question I guess that people would want to ask you that don't have a deep understanding of what you just described is, when you started your career, right? And if you look at it from the outside, you could say right now that your career and many like you in the UK that we define as road warriors or journeymen have established a career where they're going to fight a lot, potentially lose a lot, but because of that, carve out, a nice career financially for themselves. I mean, was there a point early on in your career where this kind of clicked in your head to say, hey, if I just stay busy, this could be a good living? Or was it just back to, I'm willing to take any fight anytime, and then over time it just kind of played itself out that way?
Well, yeah, I think over time it just sort of played itself out like that. But when I first turned pro, for me first, I think for my first 4 to 5 professional fights, I was actually training twice a day, 3 times a day sometimes. I wanted to have a go at it. But
Yep.
what made me turn this sort of way, to be honest, is because I meet, like I said, for my first 4 or 5 fights, I wanted to obviously have a go, so I trained, and I won some of those fights. But because I was the away, I've always been the away fighter. I've never been able to sell tickets. Okay.
Yep.
And because I was the away fighter, I always got the loss. My first 5 fights, I probably lost 1 or 2, but I actually lost them. But the other 3, I actually won, but got the loss because I was the away fighter. So I thought to myself, well, I'm training like a madman and still losing. So for a few fights, I started to ease off the training a little bit, and just take some fights as and when they come. And
Yep.
I sort of enjoyed it. Obviously, I thought to myself, well, obviously I haven't been training as hard, but I was still fit.
Yep.
So I haven't been putting much into training, but I'm still losing anyway and still getting paid for it. So it sort of evened itself out that way. So from there, it just went from there, really. Just I've always, even in the amateurs, I never had many amateurs. I think it was about 18. But even in the amateurs, I'd always go and win and fight anybody anyway. So I've always had that mentality of fighting when and wherever. But as for like going on the as they say, the road warrior or the journeyman route, because I lost close fights, kept losing close fights, the boxing sort of made me think that way and go on that journey and just earn a few quid.
Yep. Yeah, that's a difficult line to walk and balance, I'd imagine. I mean, no, I always giggle when I watch people online that criticize fighters for, and I'm not saying this is you, this just spurred this into my head, but they'll think maybe a fighter isn't giving it their full effort, and the truth is, other than the top like 2% of people in the entire world, if everybody else looks themselves in the mirror, right, we're all trying to do almost as little work as possible to make the most amount of money. I mean, that's just the hard truth of it. Yeah. It doesn't matter what our job is, but so yeah, you don't have to train as hard, and you've learned enough tricks at that point, and you realize, listen, I can go these.
See, without being disrespectful to most of these obviously boxers, I've boxed them all in the divisions, all from debuts up to world title challenges. You know what I mean? I've boxed them all, but without being disrespectful to them, I can choose whether I want a hard night or an easy night. Because, like I said, I've had that many fights now. I've picked up a few tricks and trades. Like I said, I can choose whether to have a hard night or have an easy night. So that's on me.
Yeah. It's a great piece of power to have in your career at this point. I thought about this before, and we're going to talk, I want to ask you about the McCullough fight, but I thought about this before the McCullough fight, before the John Patrick Harker fight. I thought to myself, I wonder if it crosses Brett's mind that if I go out and beat Harker, and then I continued that thought as you're getting ready to beat McCullough, which you did, and we'll talk about it, is now I beat McCullough. Is that actually negatively affect my career as opposed to going the distance with both guys and giving them rounds?
Well, I had that in mind, obviously it's happened to me before in the past. I've gone on a winning streak, not just beating debut, but beating unbeaten kids. I think last time I had like 6 or 7 on a row, beat good kids, and for making a living, the phone just went dead, bang, no fights, nobody wanted to fight me. So when I had this, obviously, this John Patrick one, and obviously the Tyrone McCullough one, I've got a different mentality now, because when I found my new trainer in Spencer, he's always, I've known Spencer for a long time, a good 5-6 years, but I've only actually started training with him for 8-9 months, to be honest. But when I went with Spencer, Spencer said to me, he said, "What do you want to do? Do I want to continue going on the road?" He said, "Or do you obviously just want to try and make something out of it?" I said, "Well, I'm 30 now, Spence." And this is what I said. I said, I don't want to be boxing no more than 32, 33-year old. Once I reach that age, I said, I'm done. I said, so I've had a lot of fights, a lot of experience. The boxing's took me to some places where I'd never go if it wasn't for boxing. So I said, all I want to do now is I just want to win a title for my two lads. So I got two boys. I said, I don't care if that's a Midlands title or an English. I said, I just want to win a bout just for them two. And obviously I'm done. That's it. Once I reach 32, I'm done. So the reason why I possibly won these two out of three, is because I have been putting a little bit more back into training, because that's my goal now. Obviously I've earned money and so on. I just want to get a bout just for my two boys before I retire. So my mentality has changed a little bit. Instead of just going into the journey mode, road warrior mode, I've gone in with a bit of ambitious, just to put myself in a position to get about.
Well, the last caveat you made there about maybe, being more selective to get in position, I think is important, because as a 30-year-old, when you say, I'm only going to fight till I'm 32 or 33, for a guy like you, look at your career, that could be another 30 fights, Brett.
Well, it could be, yeah, but I have said to myself now, though, I'm not going to take as many fights, because
Yeah.
obviously I do want to rack up a few wins just to put myself in that position. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, I understand.
That's my end goal now.
Yes, sir. Well, let me just mention that first title that you brought up for anyone that's not familiar. So amazingly, in the year 2018, you fought 13 times. And then from July, as you mentioned, from July to November of that year, you went 4-0-1 versus 5 opponents, a couple of debutantes sprinkled in there, but 5 opponents with a record of 15-0. And that, I think you might have dropped one right before the title shot, but as you mentioned, then you earned a title shot, the English title, in May of 2019. That wasn't that long ago, versus Mark Leach.
No, it wasn't. Obviously, I know Mark Leach. I know he's a very skillful boxer and that. But before we had that fight, we was actually training for a Midlands area title. But obviously, the kid who I was supposed to be boxing pulled out of injury and what knows what. And so I said to John, I said, and that's the longest I've trained. Normally, I'll just do my own bit of training. But when I was doing that 10 rounder, I trained for I think it was 6-7 weeks. And I've never trained like that in all of my career for one fight anyway. So when that got, obviously, the Midlands area title got obviously called off, I said to John, I said, I've trained for 6-7 weeks for nothing. I said, you have to get me something now. And fair play, he did get me an English title shot, but against one of the slickiest southpaws out there.
Yeah, thanks for nothing. Yeah.
Thanks for nothing.
Yeah, exactly. And for anyone not familiar, especially like in the United States, so Brett, when you mentioned the Midlands area title, that's kind of the area of which you live and fight in, and then that title potentially feeds up into the English title, which is a higher level title, of course, that you fought for against Mark Leach.
But it's like now, obviously, We're open to get an English, not an English, a Midlands again, but the lads in the Midlands area my way, I've actually beat them all.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So
Well,
I don't.
I was
So
looking. Let me scroll down to my notes. I want to say, is that Midlands area title vacant right now?
I'm not too sure. I haven't checked up. I'm not too sure, to be honest.
Uh,
I'm not too
shoot.
sure.
I was writing this down and now I can't find it. Either that or Brad Foster, who owns the British, might. Oh no, he owns British and English around the super bantamweight level. What would if you were going to fight for Midland area or even English title, what would be the preferred weight for you right now? Or does it depend on opportunity?
Well, obviously, it depends what it come up as. I could make super bantam, which is 8-9, quite easy. But if it came up a bantam at 8-6, I could make that as well. You know what I mean? With a bit more determination. But super bantam, I could make that quite easy.
Yeah, because these last two fights have been just over the featherweight limit, but
they have, yes.
Bantamweight's not a problem.
No.
I mean, super bantamweight's not a problem.
Super bantam, not a problem. No, I can make that quite easy.
Yeah. So you fought. Oh, you know what? You mentioned training. One more question before we talk about your last two fights. You just mentioned this briefly, but we were talking about the string of 13 fights in 2018 leading up to the English title fight. When you fight over that period of time, how much, if any, sparring do you do on over 13 fights?
I was still sparring twice a week as well as fighting. So, I was well into training. Even though I was fighting, I was still sparring quite a lot. Even not just for me, but I was helping the lads out of the gym as well. So I did do quite a lot of bit of training.
So as the tattoo people would say, they're addicted to the pain. You're almost addicted to the burn in the gym, it sounds like, Brett.
Yeah, mate, you don't understand. I love training. I love training, and I just like it's a bit of a stress relief for me. You get stressed after an hard day's work, go to the gym, bang the bag for a couple hours, come out, you feel like a different man. It's lovely. It's wonderful.
And even at this point in your career, go ahead.
So I said, so I'm just addicted to that. Just feeling lovely after the training, mate. It's just nice.
So even now at 30, going to the gym, you just love it because you just know what it's going to feel like on the backside when you walk out?
I do, mate. Even at 30 now, it's just, at 30 now, I even get a lot more stressed. I don't know why. I started to lose my hair.
Yep.
I just, like I said, I just love the training and the boxing side of things because I've done it from a very young age. I just love it.
That's incredible. Okay, let me ask you about your two latest fights. So we've been mentioning the first one on June 4th in Sheffield, which aired on Fight Zone UK. And every chance I get, and I don't get a plug on the back end or anything, but I just tell anybody that's listening, you should subscribe to Fight Zone UK. It's like $5 a month, and they hold cards every Friday. And the production's high level, and it's good fights. And I don't know if you're a boxing fan why you wouldn't drop down $5 to see it, because it's really worth it. And
it's good value for money, mate. You know what I mean? It's very good value for money.
I agree. I think it's great. So I had a couple of people want me to ask you, that friends of mine, that what the experience was like there, because a lot of people have joked that they just built that out. Well, it's true. they built that out of a car park. So what was that? I mean, was there a bubble atmosphere, so to speak, because of COVID there? I mean, what was that whole vibe like at the car park?
Yeah, of course. Obviously, as because of the COVID crap, yeah, there was a bubble going into the fight. Obviously, it was a 3 day bubble, but even though everybody was, well, we was all there with our opponents, we was all just buzzing off off one another, just talking, having a bit of fun. Obviously, when fight night comes, it's a different kettle of fish. But as for the venue itself, it's one of the best. I've fought in some venues like Wembley Stadium and iBox Stadium. I've fought in loads, big topper stadiums, O2, Copper Box Arena. But that Sheffield one on the Fight Zone TV, and being in a car park, it's one of the best venues to box at.
That's saying something. And I think Dennis Hobson and Glenn McCrory and those guys got it right, because
the setup was out this world. It was a pleasure to be there, to be honest with you. And like I said, I've boxed in some top venues, but this one's up there.
That's really neat. Yeah, the fans were really close, and it didn't look like they had any lack of beer flowing, which always helps too. So yeah, it looked like a good vibe. Well, cool. And so I gotta ask you another tough question. Did you think you beat John Harker that night, 39-37?
When obviously I'm more than a 4 round fighter. I like 6 and 8 rounds. So I warm into fights, you see.
Yeah.
When I boxed him over 4 rounder, I thought, it's going to be a bit tough, because I'm actually a 6 round plus fighter, because it takes me a couple of rounds to get warmed up.
Yeah.
But initially, when we boxed and the scorecards come out, I thought this is going to be a draw, or even yet they might give it him 39-38.
Yeah.
But when they gave it me, to be honest, I was quite shocked, because I thought it was a close fight. But when I've watched it back, I thought I beat him by 3 rounds to 1. When I watched it back, and he won the first round, and the second round, when I watched it back, second round was quite close. And the last 2 rounds, obviously, I was already warmed up. I think I just outboxed him, and I thought they gave it to the right man, which was me, but I didn't think it was going to end up like that.
No, just knowing what we both know about boxing, and who he was as a debutant, and your track record, I thought they would have given the nod to him as well. But he was kind of long. I also thought that was going to keep giving you problems for the full 4 rounds. But after the first or second, you had kind of figured that out and got inside on him pretty easily.
Yeah, well, that's it. Like I said, it takes me a couple of rounds to get warmed up. But in that process, I'm studying on how I can get in, and do you know what I mean? How I can win the fight, basically.
Yeah. Well, he seemed like a nice kid. He just got a win here just recently on Fight Zone. That's back in the ring, so good for him.
And I watched it, and he boxed very well. I watched it.
Yeah, against it.
That's a good attitude as well, though. He obviously just lost to me. When I spoke to him after the fight, actually, he was quite down, and I said to him, like I said, obviously, I've been in with some top kids. I said, obviously you lost, but don't take it as a loss. Take it as a learning fight. And to be honest, I think he took it on board, and he jumped straight back in the ring a few weeks after. That's great attitude. And he boxed very well the other night, and he won the fight quite easily.
Yeah, full credit to him too. It sounded like he had sold some tickets for that fight against you. So to have everybody come out and then take the backside of that couldn't have been easy.
It never is.
And then he came right jumping back, and he actually fought someone named Luke Fash, who's
Luke Fash, yes.
No pushover in his role as a road warrior journeyman himself. So
of course,
good for him. So then we fast forward only 3 weeks, which seems like an eternity sometimes in your career, but we fast forward only 3 weeks, and we go to June 25th, and this is on an MTK show. And for people that aren't familiar, against a former WBO European champion named Tyrone McCullough, who it goes beyond that because McCullough, as an Irishman, had a pretty significant amateur career. He was a bronze medalist at the 22 European Championships, and then represented Northern Ireland at the 2010 Commonwealth Games. McCullough, I would just on the surface, if it's any easier for people listening that aren't familiar with him, I mean, I would consider him a high-level British fighter. I mean, whether he could move beyond to the world level, I guess remains to be seen, but definitely in play at the top level of the British level, in my opinion. And you go in there and knock his ass out in 3 rounds. That was fantastic. So I'm watching this fight, and I won't give away the spoiler because I did see you mention this somewhere else, but I want to ask you anyway. Is the first 2 rounds, I thought to myself, all right, well, this is going to go. Was it 8-round fight? 8 rounds, right?
Yeah, 6-rounder.
Oh, a 6. Okay. So 2 rounds go by, and I said, all right, Brett's going to go 6 rounds with Tyrone McCullough. And listen, man, that's a great hell of a feather in your cap in and of itself. But yes, then the third round was very different.
Totally different, mate. I had my own plans.
Well, so the first 2 rounds, like I said, I thought to myself, you were just going to go to 6, but it sounds like that was kind of a plan going in. Tell us about that.
All right, where to start? Obviously, when I took this fight, I found out I was fighting. We fought on the Friday. I had 1, 2, 3. I had 4 days' notice. Obviously, Lee contacted me with my manager. Anyway, we had the fight. I knew he was a very, very, very good. But I've watched him box loads of times. I knew how good he was. But I still believed I could beat him. I even said that to me trainer. I said I can beat him.
Was that because anything you saw in him, or because of what you believe about yourself, or both?
Obviously, I got a bit of a different mentality now, so that could be the problem. But also, like I said, I've watched him box a few times, and boxing wise, he's very, very good. But fighting wise, he don't like it. Yeah. So obviously that was the bit of a plan all along, to try and get him to fighters, not boxers. So obviously we get into the hotel, and having said that, I knew how good he was. I was quite nervous when we took this fight because obviously he's very skillful and fast. But we get into the bubble, and the more times I seen him, he just wouldn't give me no eye contact. I don't mean like a stare down, but just when you're walking, obviously, see, I say hello or hi to anybody, whether I'm fighting them or not. But he just kept blanking me. So that in my mind, that grew a bit of confidence in me. I thought, well, he don't want this fight. You know what I mean? So I grew in them 3 days being there, I actually grew in confidence. And even on the weigh-in, he wouldn't stare me down. Just have a quick face off and turn. He wouldn't stare me down. And I knew. I thought, if I go in there tomorrow, the way I'm feeling today, for when I weighed in, because I was feeling, even though I was making weight, I was feeling good. You know what I mean? Because the weight was easy and so on. I thought, if I go in there tomorrow, I'm going to beat this kid. And like I said, I just grew in confidence in them 3 days. Anyway, come fight night, before obviously in fight day in the daytime, I was talking to my manager, John Pegg, and John said, right, I've come up with a game plan. So the game plan was, because obviously we both knew how good he was as a boxer, we didn't want that. I didn't want to be chasing him for the 6th round, you see. So we come up with this game plan. He said, for the first round, do nothing. And if you've probably seen it for the first round, I absolutely done nothing. I don't think I threw 4 shots. Do nothing. And then it takes me a couple of rounds to get warmed up anyway. And then the second round, when we went back to the corner in the second round, John said, now you've done the first round, do the same in the second. So we done the same in the second. And in the second round, if you notice, in the fight, he started coming forward and dropping his hands. And so
for basically a back foot fighter.
Yes. So we knew we had him. We come to the end of the second round, and I said to John, I said, he's dropping his hands. He said, oh no. He said, he thinks it's going to be an easy night for him now. He thinks he's going to come out and take you out because he thinks you're there to do nothing. Because you haven't done nothing in the first 2. He thinks you're there to do nothing. He said, now throw your shots. So in the third round, I just started letting my hands go, and obviously I just caught him. But that was the game plan all along, to let him think we was there just to survive for the 6 rounds, basically.
That's fantastic. What I love too about the third round was when you caught him with a left hook, because and you see all the time, and on the surface, someone looking at the fight on the surface, someone like yourself going into that fight should not have won that fight necessarily. And you see it all the time when you get someone hurt in that situation. They'll just back off, right? They said, all right, this will just buy me a few more rounds where I'm not going to get hurt, and we're going to cruise through the six. But that's not what you did.
I've actually done that myself when I've heard guys, because I've had fights penciled in. I've actually stepped back myself. You know what I mean? Think, right, fair enough. I'll step back now. But because obviously I knew this Tyrone McCullough fight was. It was a big fight for me to push me in the right direction for possibly a Midlands. So when I hurt him, I thought in my own mind, I thought, well, I've got to get him out of here now. I've got to get him out, because if I don't get him out, then I thought to myself, well, for the last 3 rounds, he's just going to be on the back foot, and I'm going to be chasing him all night, and he's probably just going to ping me head off with them jabs and 1-2s. So I have to get him out that third round.
And you damn sure did. And I'll tell you that the jubilation that I saw and the excitement I saw in you when you did that was one of the coolest things I've seen in a long time. That meant a lot to you, didn't it?
It did, mate. That was an important fight for me. An important fight for me. At the moment, it hasn't got me nothing else penciled in, so but I'm just in the gym, just grinding. When that chance comes again, we'll be there.
I love it. That was fantastic. It was really great to see. Well, nothing on the horizon, but you've got a good team around you. You're grinding away, and Lord knows you're ready. So something will present itself. Let me ask you this: if a Midlands area, if that's like, well, no, maybe you're beyond that, and there's no English opportunities, you'll certainly you'll take. Will you take another 4 to 6 rounder at this point, or it has to be more than that?
No, it's got to be, obviously 4 rounders is a no-go for me, really.
Okay.
I need to be doing 6, 8, 10 rounders. You know what I mean? So ideally, I don't really want to take another 4 rounder. I'd prefer, if it's just even if it's just like an 8 rounder with nothing on the line, I'll take an 8 rounder. Just keep yourself busy. You know what I mean? I'll take one of them. Not a problem. But 4 rounds, you know, it's still 4 rounds to keep the ring rust off, but for I'm like I said, I'm a long distance fighter, so I need the long distance ones.
No, that makes sense, and that's what I was just trying to get a flavor for. You know, if the English or Midlands doesn't play itself out, you know, the debutante in a 4 round fight at this point, that's really not going to do you any good for what your goals are going forward.
No, of course not. And off them last 2 fights now, I don't think unless there's something special, I don't think any novice boxer is going to want to jump in with me now.
Well, that's true too.
Especially not a debut kid.
Yeah, that's true too. That was a bit of an ignorant question, a big ignorant point on my part. I think you're right. Stay away from Brett at this point. Well, mate, I've already taken more time of yours than I told you I would. Is there anything I'm forgetting? Anything else you want to mention to the fans?
Just thank you for everybody who obviously supports me and everything, buddy. I really appreciate it.
When are we going to get the Brett Fidoe t-shirts? That's the other question everybody wants to know.
Oh yeah, yes. Well, we can get them as soon as possible. I've whenever they need them, I can get them.
You can. You've got Brett Fidoe t-shirts?
Yes, I got some for the gym for my trainers and obviously myself. You know, anybody else? You know, I can always send you one over, Tim. That's not a problem.
Oh my gosh, you're going to make a lot of these people that follow me on Twitter and a lot of the listeners happy to hear that Brett Fidoe t-shirts are available. This is fantastic.
We could get them, and I'm quite shocked, to be honest, that people actually recognise me. You know, I've got a few fans from New Zealand, which I've only found out recently. You know what I mean? So I'm happy to be around the globe.
People love the underdog, man, and especially in your last 2 fights. I mean, you've done it in other points of your career, but to show you can do it more than once is the key, right? And you've been doing it throughout your career.
But that's it. It's all it is now for the remainder of my career, Tim, is I'm just doing it for me 2 lads now. That's the big drive there for me now, to me 2 lads.
Well, God bless, my friend. We'll pray that happens for you, and I know it will, because you put the work in, and I know that's going to come through for you. So, for listeners too, I'll in the show notes of this episode, I'll have a link to Brett's Facebook profile if you want to look to it there, if that's okay with you, Brett.
Yeah, it's fine. I'm me Instagram as well. I got Instagram. I'll send you the link to that as well, mate.
Oh, okay, great. I'll add your Instagram.
I've just recently signed up for Instagram. I'm still new to it.
Back to our old guy discussion, right? I just did the same thing. Yep. And I'll also have the beauty of Brett's fight that we've been talking about against Tyrone McCullough, which was something, if you're listening, you should, and haven't seen it, you should definitely see, was available live and free on YouTube. So I'll have that link in there too, as well as the start time of the fight, so you can fast forward right to Brett's fight and watch the 3 rounds. I'd highly recommend it. So, well, Brett, thank you so much, mate. It was an absolute pleasure. Thank you for letting me ask you some questions that, for me, were a little uncomfortable to ask, but I appreciate your honesty, and I just wish you all the best, mate. It'll be fun to watch where you go from here, because I know you're going to achieve those goals you have set up for you with the attitude that you have and the work ethic that you've already shown.
Cheers, Tim. Thank you very much for inviting me on, mate.
Yeah, you betcha. You betcha. And when I get this thing published, I'll make sure to, within a day or so, I'll make sure to pass it along to you as well, okay?
Cheers, buddy. Thank you.
All right, buddy. Thank you. Good talking to you, Brett. Take care.
And you, pal. God bless.
Thanks. God bless. All right. Bye-bye.